right. Is that me? No. Hello everyone and welcome to this two-part series on the classical studio of Trondheim. My name is Sigurd and I represent the first attempt of running a classical design studio, and following me, Carl will talk of the second edition. Now, getting to design a building like this was quite a mind-shifting experience. Coming from a school of contemporary architecture, I would say we had to unlearn just as much as we needed to learn anew. So with this talk, I thought I'd walk you through some of our most spectacular mistakes, hoping that it can translate to insights for other architects wishing to take beauty more seriously in design again. So, first thing you need to know is that this was a rather reckless experiment, initiated in the frustration of my friend, Jacques, sitting there, who reached out to Professor Branko Mitrovic, here today, with the desperate request of teaching him real architecture. Because by this time, Jacques and I had studied together for over 3 years, and though we both agreed for a long time that beauty was important in architecture, we didn't quite know what to do about it. Like in previous projects, we had tried some ornamentation and some proportional theories, and even added classical elements by the book, but somehow it always ended up looking like a modern building with icing on top, like it was missing the essence. So we were hoping to learn another approach to architecture. So, long story short, Jacques convinced Branko to tutor this studio of classical design, and I convinced them both to let me join. And that was it, the first classical design studio of our university in 100 years. And I can't prove that, but I think it sounds cool. Thank you. But the question is still where to even begin. And for Branko, that was luckily quite obvious. You need to start by training watercolor, because if it's not watercolor, it's not architecture, he said. So we started by copying these historical buildings, tracing every line of the divisions and the ornaments of the facade. And for us, well, it looked classical. There was a lot of things going on. But when we started applying the shadows with watercolor, stroke by stroke, according to this constructed angle of the sun at 45 degrees, it was like the intention of it all made sense. Learning to render in watercolor teaches you that ornaments are nothing but a composition of light, made to please the eye. And it kind of reminded us that architecture is not constructed of lines, but three-dimensional forms. And that sounds a bit stupid, but I think it's really easy to forget. That by the choice of technique in architecture, it influences the way you think, more than you think, I believe. So, we spent a couple weeks rendering watercolor until we figured we were ready to start design. And our goal of designing was to create a new art gallery for Trondheim. So we started out as usual, gathering information about the functions of an art gallery. So we visited the existing museum of Trondheim and we went to some exhibition to see how they work, and basically ended up with this list of functions, color-coded blocks to scale, that we could move around on the site until we would find something that worked, like a working concept for the building. And, well, yeah, I think we thought that we were solving everything all at once. But in reality, we were spending most of our time planning the elevator shafts and the delivery truck and the employee entrances. And I think today, I would say we were on the path of letting our art gallery be designed for everything else than art. And I don't know about you, but I think that sounds quite familiar. No one goes to an art gallery to visit the escalators, right? They come to see the art, so they need good spaces. So what we did is we threw away all the employees and the functions for a while, and we started to design this building as if the Queen of Norway would come to visit Trondheim and visit this art gallery. And this, my friends, was the secret sauce of designing classical architecture. Because we then created this list of spaces in our art gallery in order of importance, like a design hierarchy of the building. And we knew we wanted to lead the queen or visitor into this central domed space that connected all the art gallery halls together. So we started here. We learned that the cylindrical room is basically just 3 facades. It's the floor, and it's this barrel wall, and it's the ceiling. So that's what we designed. And we ended up with this colossal or ionic order with a rusticated base and this gallery floor above with 2 ambulatory around, I think it's called, with the staircases leading down to this lecture hall, upper floor functioning as this gallery to look through, and on either side of this, we built these 2 monumental staircases leading up to the piano nobile, the most important floor of all. And these rooms were rectangular. That means 6 facades to design, and we designed it mostly like an outdoor loggia with this. We gave it Palladian room proportions, and its length was defined by the size of the staircase. And, well, its whole function was to lead people up to the gallery floor, where the upper hallway became this display of sculptures and doors leading to the art halls, which were all a bit different in geometries, but all were designed from the inside to have good proportions, good lighting, and then added to this structure of the staircases afterwards. And by this, everything else just fell into place. So I brought you here this simplified spatial composition that ended up defining our gallery. And I would like you to know that all these shapes are rooms, quite geometrically defined, and added together in the composition on beneficial axes. There are no random nooks in this floor plan. And you see they are also a bit offset towards every edge, because Branko said our building was so boring and needed more Baroque curves. So this is how we managed that. But I won't have time to go into that. That was a pain to design. But our building basically ended up looking like this. And here, I will say, it's quite obvious what is the art of classical architecture. That all the leftover functions, the emergency staircases, the toilets and elevators, they fell into the leftover spaces in between the oval gallery and the circular and the rectangular shapes. So they ended up fitting into the architecture rather than defining it. Now, what that also means is that the ground floor, all the administration functions, the workshop, restaurant, kitchens, and offices, also had to fit into this guiding geometry of the gallery floor, which is to say that these offices here on the right are not ideal offices, but they do work. And they probably could be needed a bit more to function better, but they will never compromise on the exhibition space. And that's the key difference. They are placed further down in the design hierarchy, and that's where they should be, I think. So we also ended up placing this building on our site, this empty parking lot in the middle of town of Trondheim. And we were criticized for it looking like a Baroque UFO having landed in Trondheim, which is fair. Our examiner said something like, this restaurant should have had outdoor seating, and this garden is not properly designed, and maybe double curved facade is not completely right for Trondheim. But the key point is that all these changes can still be made without compromising on the core structure of the building, because this is not a building based on its function. It's based on some sweet spaces that we have created on the inside that can be fitted also into a rectangular facade just as well. So learning classical architecture is learning a discipline, is learning a way to work with spaces and forms in a compositional manner, instead of working with functions as an equation. I think. And I think we all agree that we want more beautiful surroundings in this world. And I think choosing to design classical is putting aesthetics on top of this hierarchy so that it isn't lost in the end. Thank you very much.